Member from Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to contribute to the debate on Bill 68, the Comprehensive Ontario Police Services Act. For years, citizens, civil society organizations, and police associations themselves have called for modernizing the Police Services Act. And while far from perfect, Bill 68 begins to move Ontario in that direction by acting on many of the key recommendations from Justice Michael Tulloch's Police Oversight Review. I'm especially encouraged that Bill 68, like Bill 175, requires more transparency from the Special Investigations Unit, requiring by law that the SIU provide greater details about its decisions not to lay charges against the police is an important step forward in meeting Justice Tulloch's recommendation that the agency become more open, candid, and communicative by including the releasing of detailed public reports in every case in which it does not lay charges. I was worried that such transparency provisions would not be in Bill 68 when I first heard the minister's news conference announcing Bill 68. The harsh rhetoric from the government on Bill 68, accusing the previous government's Bill 175 as being, and I quote, the most anti-police bill in Canadian history, end quote, had me worried that Bill 68 eliminated these transparency provisions recommended by Justice Tulloch and demanded by citizens groups. For all the chest pumping about the previous legislation and the opposition being anti-police, Bill 68 retains many of Bill 175's key provisions. And so I bring this up because I would ask the government to keep it in mind that ramping up divisive rhetoric, especially when it comes to police and community relations, is not helpful. That using the police as a wedge issue is dangerous. It's disingenuous and it's divisive. We don't need more heated rhetoric about being for or against the police. We need more rhetoric about bringing police and community together. Accusing other parties and other members of this legislature of hating the police is not helpful. Such divisive rhetoric only serves to inflame tensions between police and community. It can undermine public confidence in the police and government oversight of the police. Yes, police work is hard. It is hard work to keep us safe. Yes, police work is dangerous. It is dangerous to keep us safe. But we also ask the police and put the police in a sacred public trust to be in a serious position of responsibility and authority, more authority than most any citizens in our society. They have powers that are not granted to other everyday citizens. So there must be transparency and there must be accountability mechanisms in place. And we need balance between police and community relations. So I agree with the government that we should not be needlessly putting police under a cloud of suspicion. And I support changes to Bill 68 that require shorter investigation times. For example, it's hard on individual officers and the police force in general to have a cloud of suspicion hanging over an officer's head. But I take issue with the government accusing people or parties asking for more transparency and accountability as being anti-police. Systems of transparency and accountability exist for a reason. It's possible to both respect the police to admire the police, and to equip them with authority while also holding them accountable. So let's not make transparency and accountability red tape. And so I want to personally thank all police members in this province. And I especially want to reach out and thank Matt Jotham, who's the president of the Guelph Police Association of my riding, who's given me so much wonderful information about this bill and other issues facing policing in my community. I want to thank Bruce Chapman, president of the Police Association of Ontario, for being here today. And I want to thank all police officers for putting their lives on the line. Some of the things that I think are important in this bill is the duty to accommodate officers with a disability, such as those dealing with mental health challenges from PTSD. And I want to challenge the government to invest in the public supports that those officers need to honor them for their services. I think Bill 68 makes the SIU process more transparent, which frees up resources for police to focus on public safety. That's a good thing. Greens have long called for the Police Service Board members, the Inspector General, inspectors, and all police officers and special constables to be required to take training around human rights, systemic racism, and diversity training, and training in the rights and cultures of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also believe that providing crisis training for officers that includes the fear and apprehension experienced by officers as a result of stereotyping or lack of knowledge about mental illness. And I just want to compliment the official opposition for bringing forward amendments at committee that would strengthen those training provisions. And I sincerely wish the government would have taken the opposition up on their offer. That's what committee's for us to work together to improve legislation. And I think those amendments would have improved Bill 68. I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by saying that one of the things that is not talked about in Bill 68, but I think is an important issue when it comes to building trust between police and community, is the issue around carding. And that we should be explicit at all times in this province that carding has no place in Ontario. And as we move forward with the modernization of policing, I want to ensure that we have strong bonds of trust between police and community and all members of our community. And I also want to raise a concern that I know the Police Association has raised as we think about moving forward, and that's ensuring that there are no provisions in Ontario whatsoever that would ever lead to the privatization of policing. And I know that's a concern that the association has raised, and I just want to be clear in my commitment that I will always oppose anything that would move us in that direction. And I also want to raise a concern about the elimination of almost 100 police service boards in rural and remote communities. We need local decision-making and local representation to ensure that we have strong local connections to build those bonds of trust between community and police. And so, Mr. Speaker, Bill 68 is not perfect. I'm planning on supporting it because it is a step in the right direction, but I want to encourage the government to move forward and strengthen and improve this bill and actually listen to some of the amendments that opposition members put forward that I think would have strengthened this bill as we think about the best way to modernize policing in this province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.